Hey now, Rob here with Buhler Bros Flies for the Kern River Fly Shop. Today we're going to be tying the Frenchy nymph. The Frenchy was designed by Lance Egan, U.S. competition angler and guide based in Colorado, and the Frenchy is the latest in the latest development in the long evolution of the pheasant tail nymph, and fishes well on all trout waters across the world. So we'll start off by taking a look at the hook we're going to be using. It's a jig style hook, which allows the fly to ride hook point up or swim hook point up. And the style I've been using is fulling mill lately. We got a size 12 here on this fly. And the fulling mills are economical, super strong, got a nice wide hook gape, sharp hook point, and they're barbless. Extra added benefit there. The bead we're using is a tungsten bead, 5/32, and it's pretty much the largest you can use for this size of a hook. You can use, or the benefit of that large bead is for faster waters or deeper runs, and it gets it down into that faster water. And then if you want to downsize, you can use a smaller bead on this hook for your slower waters or shallower runs. And then the thread we're starting out with today is a UTC thread, 70 denier fluorescent cerise, and we're going to attach that right behind the hook bead, right behind the bead, and trim our excess. And the first material we're going to add is the tailing material. And the tailing material that Lance uses is Coq de Leon, and Whiting has these in the little tailing packs. And the Coq de Leon is actually the oldest bird that's been bred specifically for fly tying. Here's one of the feathers. And we're going to take those hackle, a few of those hackle barbs, and pull them at a 90-degree angle away from the stem to align the tips, and take maybe 5 or 6 of them for the tail on this fly. And trim those toward the base and keep them together. And then we'll bring those up and measure those for tie-in. And we're going to measure it to about 2/3 of the hook shank there. And we'll switch hands and kind of put it in position, and then trim the butts right where you're going to tie them in at the back of the bead there. And then we'll have a nice clean tie-in. And wrap back as you go toward the rear of the hook, keeping the tailing fibers aligned on the top of the hook shank. And we're going to stop our thread at, right before it starts going down the bend. So just as it starts to roll over on that bend there. Got a nice little tail in place there. And then the next material we're going to add is the rib material, and it's ultra wire, small amber. I like the amber, it's kind of a natural color, but you can add a hotter color like a red or a purple for attraction if you like. We're going to tie that in at the back of the hook, but we're going to leave enough hanging forward to get covered as we wrap toward the front, and that's going to leave a level body or abdomen for us. And then we'll bring our thread back to that same tie-in area right at the bend and right where our tail is at. And then the heart of this fly is the pheasant tail, and we're going to take one of the center pieces from the clump of the pheasant tail, and we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to pull those hackle fibers down away from the stem at a 90-degree angle and line up 4 or 5 of those together for tying in for our abdomen. And we're going to line the tips for tie-in just like we did that rib material. So some of that's going to be hanging forward here. And as we wrap our thread forward, that'll secure that material onto the hook shank. And we'll come up all the way up behind the bead there. And then we're going to wrap that pheasant tail all together around the hook shank here. Transfer in hands you go, and watch out for that hook point as you come around, if that nicks those pheasant tail fibers. It can mess everything up for you. So we'll come forward one wrap in front of the last, and here's another way you can wrap it too. You can secure it with your material hand, hold it in place as you come around and grab that clump. Couple different methods of tie in there, and then once you get up behind the bead, wrap over with 1-2 wraps of that thread to secure that material in place, and we'll trim our excess. And then we're going to bring our rib forward. We'll do one more wrap just to make sure that's secured in there tight. Bring the rib forward through that pheasant tail fiber with maybe 4 or 5 evenly spaced wraps through the body here. That's going to create segmentation, and it's going to secure everything in place as well. The original pheasant tail was designed by, or the original pheasant tail nymph was designed by Frank Sawyer, who was river keeper on the Avon River in England, and he developed it in the early 1900s to imitate small mayflies that were really prevalent on that river, and it still works for the exact same thing on rivers all across the US and all across the world. And then once we get that tied in there, you can just twist your wire, and that will cut off at your tie-in point or your wrap-in point. And then we're going to add our hot spot here. This is the kind of the key development of the Frenchy nymph, is adding the hot spot, and we're using ice dub. We're going to use a fluorescent UV pink. You can see my fancy box here of ice dub that I got at the craft store. And we're going to add just a little bit. You don't need a whole lot of dubbing here. Spin some of that dubbing on to the thread, spinning it in the same direction as you add a little bit at a time. And we're going to wrap that a little bit behind the bead. We're going to leave a little space right behind that bead. And there's a little thorax. We could probably add just a touch more to make that a little bit bigger. That looks pretty good where it is, but a little bit more might be better. Let's take a look. There we go. That looks pretty sweet. And then this is where that colored thread comes in handy. It adds a double hot spot here. So we got the hot spot of that UV ice dub, and then we're gonna wrap a little hot spot of a collar right behind that bead, and have a dual hot spot of the ice dub and then the thread. And then we're pretty much finished. We're just going to wrap it off here with some half-hitch knots, or you can whip finish it. There's 3 half hitches. We'll trim our excess. And then you can add your glue of choice. So this fishes extremely well on all kinds. There's several applications. You can use a dry dropper below a stimulator or a hopper during the summertime, in the spring, early fall, and then all year long you can use it as the heavier ones you can use as your anchor fly, and then or dropper, and then you can use the smaller ones as a point fly. It's excellent for fish and trout waters all over the West, Frenchy nymph, and you can change up your hotspot colors, have all kinds of fun playing around with this guy. And hope you guys tie up a few, get out on the water and catch some fish. Until next time.